bringing up issues like this to the administration of those areas. So we want to try to kind of expand that to the rest of the university. And there's also several comparison schools that kind of already do this as is now with a system for students to directly bring up these issues, and we'll touch on those later.
And now we would like to highlight some main points from our legislation. And first, we'd like to make note of two important quotes from Recommendation 11 from the Commission of 125. It is vital that students help set and maintain standards of excellence at their own university. Also, every student, faculty member, and staff member should assume individual responsibility for upholding the reputation, values, and academic integrity of the university. Now, SFAI, we've done a lot of research on many comparison schools, and we found that Baylor and Ohio State University do give their students a formal outlet to report cases of academic dishonesty on their websites. And by doing so, they're giving their students a way to maintain standards of excellence at their own university. Currently, Texas has no formal outlet for students to do so. Now, we also want to make note that if this legislation is passed, we want you to know that SJS will take appropriate action against any student who does report a case of academic dishonesty but fails to do so with integrity.
All right, so why should we ask SJS to formalize the process for student reporting? And one problem is cheaters, and because right now they're not caught because of all the decentralized things going on. As Austin said, each of the professors will have their students who are kind of being guilty of academic dishonesty to wash their whiteboards or do whatever for the first semester, but they're not. SJS don't know about them, and they keep on doing it in different classes, and it just gets out of hand. And these guys, they taint the university's image, and they devalue our affiliation as students and student leaders of the University of Texas at Austin. Could I use the mouse to explain the next slide? All right, so here's the current situation, right? Students witness academic dishonesty on the part of another student, or when they see a TA or an AI not following procedure, or just turning a blind eye toward a problem, or they feel like they're in a pretty bad testing environment where people are creeping over them. So what does the student do in this case? What do you think? The student does nothing. Because who's going to go talk to the professor? 1%? 0.5%? I don't know. So when you do actually talk to professors, you have options. Some of the programs like UT Law and VHP, you can go to talk to your own program, right? It's right here. And that is their form on their website, or their dean or their director. Or you go to your professor hoping that they'll do something about it. So your faculty is involved, and they do this thing. At the back of your packets, you will have the discipline process for academic dishonesty. They'll do this whole process, and it takes forever. And they'll file a report. Finally, an SJS will get note of this. So what's the problem? What's the problem with this picture? Do you see a beautiful face in this picture? It's misintegrity, and she's crying. And Mr. Honor, he's upset. Why? Because students can't report. Faculty, sometimes they don't have time to report. It is just unacceptable. And at the end of the SJS, they have 200 reports a year for this university of thousands and thousands of students. We're way behind our comparison schools. So what do I propose? What do we propose? What should academic dishonesty, where should they go? And how should we deal with these? Blue things. If this resolution passes, we have the chance of setting up a student reporting form that is online, and if they can't use a computer, they can use a paper form, hopefully. And they can report instances. They can get their advisors to help them to report these instances if we tell the advisors that there's a second avenue. And so we will have so many more reports at SJS so that when someone gets formally reported, we will see that this guy has been cheating 7 times at different places and has reports from different students backing this up. So I mean, that's more credibility. And that's more fairness toward our students. And also that helps when you have cases of academic dishonesty in different colleges, like business, liberal arts, different colleges, so that SJS as a body, underneath the Dean of Students, they can see what's going on throughout. So if this resolution passes, we actually have the hope of getting SJS to serve the students, rather than getting them to be the state prosecutors against our students. We're actually serving the students, eliminating the cheaters, slowly but surely, and also getting the faculty involved. And speaking of faculty, I'm going to get Charles to talk about faculty.
So the kind of the last point that we like to make is that we really do stress the importance of faculty, like them emphasizing this issue as well in their classroom, because we feel like if faculty are pushing this issue, then it's more likely to get spread out. And also, we also, like Austin was saying, or someone was saying earlier, that it's really important that faculty does go through the proper like forms and all the kind of things that they need to do to make sure that academic dishonesty is reported properly to SJS, because if it's not, then there are many instances that like aren't being properly taken care of, and nobody really knows about them. You can't really do something about something you don't know.
Yeah, with that, we open up to, oh, that's your job. So.
Right, and now we have 5 minutes for question and answers. Do you have any questions? Can you stand and state your name and your whatever else?
Ashley Jennings, Communication Council. I think this is a great proposal. I just have a few issues with the wording on some of these articles. Specifically, line 75, you say submit evidence. What's the criteria for evidence specifically? And do they have to submit evidence in order for a case to even be taken into account at SJS?
So yeah, I guess when we say evidence, first of all, we mean just anything that you might have seen in the classroom. They would probably have to describe the circumstances surrounding the incident, first of all. And what was the second part of your question?
Do they have to submit evidence for to even like go into case form or to be into account, or can it just be hearsay?
Well, there needs to be enough substantial evidence for.
One thing that we stress is that you actually witnessed it yourself. Like, it's not, I heard that he did this. It's, I saw this with my own eyes. And hopefully, if you're able to see it, then that's your evidence. You know, like, you can describe the situation to somebody else.
Exactly, and if SJS decides to follow up on this, on whatever you report, then they should be able to determine pretty quickly if you're actually telling the truth, or if you were just saying something that just to, I don't know, throw a student under the bus.
Correct. Yeah. And also, how the current process is done at BHP, for example, I'm a BHP student and I know about this, is you actually have to log in with your UTV ID, so it can be an anonymous report. That adds credibility to itself, and also if you're vague in a statement and that doesn't constitute as evidence, the dean will know your identity, can come to you and speak with you further. Because sometimes, you know, we're not exactly sure of what exactly went on. We might not be the first person who saw it in first person. So you can always add that verbally, because the dean or whomever will be in charge of this will know your identity. And that's one thing is we've looked at some other universities where they allow anonymous reporting, and that is a problem because people will just start stuffing hearsay in their boxes and in the online forms, and we don't want that. So we hope that this is a better solution, have identity tied into the form so that you can provide backup information in person or on the telephone or something else.
Jeff Stevens, Undergraduate Business Council. Would you consider adding to the legislation the fact that, I definitely agree with you that non-anonymous reporting will increase, students reporting with integrity. Would you consider adding to the legislation that SJS will take action against students that report without integrity as well? I think that's an important point.
Yeah, that actually is in our legislation, one of our resolve statements.
It's whereas 65.
And just more so to the point, do you think that you could add something saying reporting must be, with identity behind it, not anonymous?
Yeah, I think we should definitely specify that.
Ed?
I'm Ed Zhang from Academic Enrichment. I had a really quick question. The people who are reporting this, do they stay anonymous to the accused? Because if they don't, then I think that might open up some retaliation. It's not within.
Yeah, I think that you definitely have to protect the person who filed the report, so.
So would you consider adding the legislation clause that says that the accuser would have to remain anonymous to be accused?
Yeah, thanks for that suggestion.
The reason why we haven't considered that kind of as the first thing, because when we went through the SJS process, currently only faculty members are allowed to report, so they're happy to be there because you can't really retaliate against a faculty member. And that's outlined in the flow chart as well as part of the university hearing process. You actually don't get a hearing unless you appeal. So that is a thing in the flow chart currently. And if you have any comments on if you think everyone who gets reported via this form should get a hearing, that's something that academic integrity can also work on. But that's the current situation. You will only get a hearing if you appeal, and if you don't get a hearing, that means you're really not going to know who reported this unless SJS tells you, and I can't find a reason why would they tell you who reported you. I mean, that's SJS proprietary information.
Okay, Austin.
Austin Carlson, Student Bar Association. So this proposal would only catch two types of students not caught now, and correct me if I'm wrong. People that are too afraid right now to report because they'd have to go to a professor, so there's an online thing. And then two, people that told a professor, but the professor refused to go forward with it. So I understand the value of the first, that's definitely there. And the second could be beneficial, you're catching cheaters, but you're seriously going to undermine the professor's autonomy and control over the classroom. So I was wondering if you guys had any discussion with faculty about how they felt about possibly having a way that you can get around them. Because you could have students that they go and say, I saw some cheating, the professor says, I'm not going to deal with it, and now you're going around the professor's head.
Well, we haven't had that discussion, actually. It would be pretty interesting, but I think, as long as we're advocating academic integrity in the classroom, I don't see a professor who would, really be against.
And here's the thing too, maybe I see it differently, but I don't see this as taking control from the professor. I see it as putting some power into the students, yes, and I don't see it as going around the professor either, because I feel like if they're not going to take action against it, then what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to let it go, or and that's the point, that we don't think that it should have to be necessary that you have an intermediary to report such cases.
Okay, that's 5 minutes. Is there a motion to extend?
Motion to extend for 5 minutes.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Yes, second. Okay. Next question. Okay.
Chelsea Townsend, Social Work Council. I actually have a couple of questions. On your second resolve statement, it states lines 75 and 76, basically that a student can speak on a case on the part of another student. And a few minutes ago, I understood that, the evidence, you need to be a witness. So can you guys explain that resolve statement a little more?
We just meant that you can report another student. That's what we meant. If you see academic dishonesty on the part of another student, someone else is cheating, and you saw that.
Okay, because I was interpreting it as, if you have a friend that isn't comfortable reporting or something like that.
Yeah, you can definitely
clarify
Okay.
that. Thank you.
And my second one was, let's see if I can just find it. Back to the last whereas statement, to take appropriate action against any student who fails to act with integrity. Could you elaborate on what you mean a little more on that?
Well, basically, the essence of that whereas statement was so that, we had a meeting once, and we kind of brought this up, and the lady said, well, what happens if, a drunken friend is just like, oh, I'm going to report you, blah, blah, blah. So, that was basically what we're trying to do. If you're not going to act, because the whole purpose of this is to instill integrity into the UT body, right? So we wouldn't want people to use this system without that same kind of integrity. So basically, we just don't want it abused in that way. And maybe integrity may be too broad or something of a word, but that was the essence.
Okay, because I was just curious exactly what could constitute as not being with integrity and how you could determine that.
Well, just things like blatantly false or stuff like that, but we don't know exactly how that would be determined right now.
Alex Jones, Senate at Large. In some of the whereas and statements, it states professors specifically. Are TAs or grad students considered faculty that can report to SJS, or